Last week, the Supreme Court came down with a ruling in a case of a man who said that he should not have to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding because it violated his religious freedom and his moral conviction. The reporters and the court watchers said that it was a narrow ruling. It was only in this case, for this man, that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission should have been more open to his claims of religious freedom. And so that means that we will have to live to argue that case in this nation at some future date. However, in the aftermath of that ruling, there were several people who were passing around a meme and a hashtag that said, Jesus would have baked the cake. Now, I typically do not like those memes. I'm not very fond of them. And in this particular case, I was reluctant to even look at it because I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what Jesus would do with the things that we busy ourselves fighting over. I have no idea what Jesus would do because I'm not sure there were many cake bakers like the ones we have in Jesus' time. So I have no idea whether or not Jesus would have baked the cake. But what I do know, and what I think they're trying to get at with that meme, what I do know is that Jesus is not in the business of creating more outsiders. Jesus is not interested in excluding people if he doesn't have to. I know this because I read the scriptures, and it doesn't look like Jesus is one that is interested in dividing people in the way that this refusal to bake the cake. I just don't see it that way. So in some ways, I understand why people say Jesus would have baked the cake, because Jesus has shown us and modeled for us what it means to be inclusive and to embrace people who are different. And I suspect that the centurion himself had gotten the word that Jesus was one who would be inclusive, that Jesus wouldn't just simply dismiss him out of hand. I'm sure in our text today we meet someone who had gotten word that this Jesus fellow was one who would at least give me a chance to plead my case. And how would he know that? He would know that because Jesus had been preaching and had been preaching a gospel that some people had to stand up and take notice. He had been telling people that you should love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And Jesus preached, ask and it shall be given you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. So I think the centurion had it on good authority that if I just show up, that maybe Jesus wouldn't dismiss me out of it. And of all the people that Jesus should dismiss, it should have been a centurion. Of all the people that Jesus should have claimed moral conviction not to serve, it should have been the centurion, because the centurion was an outsider. He was a foreigner. He was an agent of the empire. Let me break it down for you. He was the enforcer for an exploitative and dominating empire. Let me go even further. He was an enforcer, the one who would come and ransack your house to get the taxes that you owe. He will be the one that come and get the rent that you owe. So I'm sure there were people in the crowd thinking, why is Jesus talking to him? So if Jesus wanted to claim moral conviction, Jesus had every right to say, this is not someone with whom I want to speak. But the centurion comes to Jesus and say, Lord, my servant is paralyzed, terribly distressed. Again, I want you to understand something. This is somebody who every interaction with Jews of first century Palestine would not be so humble, would embody all of the imperatives of power and extreme might. But he comes and he says to Jesus, Lord, my servant is paralyzed. And I think the translation we have misses it. They say, I will come and heal. It was more like a question. And Jesus would have questioned, like, wait, are you talking to me? That was Jesus' response. Lord, come and heal my servant. Are you talking, am I the one to come and heal? Surely this centurion can't be talking to me. Jesus' ministry is to the lost sheep of Israel, not to Gentiles, not to outsiders. But Jesus says, oh, are you talking to me? And the centurion said, I am not worthy. I'm not worthy that you should come and do for me. I am not worthy that you should enter my home. I am not worthy, but only speak a word, and my servant will be healed. I know authority. I know who you are, but I heard this thing. This is what the centurion is getting on. He's like, I heard it. You are indeed Jesus the Word, and you are Jesus with a word. See, you didn't hear me. I want to say it again because I thought that was clever, but let me say it again. You are Jesus the Word, and I am here to take you at your word. So only say a word, and my servant would be healed. Jesus the Word, and I'm taking you at your word. Here, wait, let me break it down to you. When faith meets the word, you better get back. When faith meets the word, you better watch out. There's going to be some healing taking place. When faith meets the word, everything you thought was going to be true is going to be different. When faith meets the word, miracles happen. When faith meets the word, inclusion happens. When faith meets the word, oh my God, something's going to happen. Oh, you better watch it. You better watch it when you take faith in the presence of God. You better watch it when you take your faith in the presence of Jesus. Jesus the Word. Jesus at His word, because something will break loose and God will do something for you. Jesus looked around and was amazed at what, because this centurion, this outsider, this enforcer, this agent of the state comes and brings faith and lands it right at Jesus' feet. And Jesus said, I have never seen this kind of faith in Israel. All the people who've been sitting around me, you don't act like this. The people who sit around me, you already included, so you don't seem to understand. But here, faith meets the word. Oh, I don't think you get it. You all are looking like you're surprised. You're looking like you don't get the, when faith meets the word, that's when God can act. That's when Jesus can do some amazing things. When faith meets the word, what a surprise is going to be for you. And that's what we're running into with this issue. I don't know if Jesus would have baked the cake. I have no idea. But I know that if some outsider, if some LGBTQ person, if somebody who's an outcast, if somebody who's been rejected, if somebody who doesn't know where to go, if you bring your faith to the word and take Jesus at his word, something good's going to happen. Something miraculous will happen. Some breakthrough will occur. I do believe it. I do believe it. I have no idea what Jesus would do with your cake. I don't know what Jesus would do with your flour. But if whatever you take to Jesus, I believe that Jesus will do a work for us. I believe it. And here's the truth. I know it. Some of us have been taking our faith to churches all our lives. We've been taking what we've heard about Jesus. We've been bringing ourselves, our bodies, our lives right into the very presence of God. And we've been going to churches and saying, hey, here's what I'm bringing. Because I heard Jesus say that ask and it will be given. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. So I'm coming. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. And we've brought it to churches. And some of those churches have said, you're unworthy. You're unworthy. But I want you to notice something. When the centurion said, I am unworthy, Jesus said nothing about his worth. Jesus said nothing about what he had previously done. Jesus did not react to what he might have done in the name of the state. Jesus probably didn't say anything about the kinds of pagan rituals that this Roman citizen may have engaged in. Jesus didn't care where he'd been. Jesus didn't care what he'd done. Jesus didn't care about this relationship with his slave, because that relationship must have been very unusual. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It was very unusual. I don't know, but that it doesn't happen that a centurion with that kind of authority and power will be running to someone, and a Jewish peasant rabbi, and say, hey, Lord. But Jesus didn't ask. Jesus didn't care. Jesus wasn't interested in his status. Jesus wasn't interested in what he's done. Jesus was responding to the faith, because the centurion brought a faith right to the word. And so I know, we still have it. There are many young people, there are people all over this world who are taking that faith and saying, hey, I need something. Hey, some suffering is going on. Hey, things are going wrong for me. Hey, I need an answer. Hey, it looks like I don't know where to turn. Hey, this addiction is getting the better of me. Hey, I'm losing my life here. Hey, this illness is terminal. And they've been coming to churches and saying, I need a word. I need to hear the word. I need to take Jesus at his word. And some of those churches have not been able to hear the plea. They have not been able to witness the faith. They have not been able to include the people who are looking. And that is the gift that we celebrate here today. That is the gift that we celebrate during this season of Pride. Every time you come into this sanctuary, you are bringing your faith to this place. You are bringing your faith to the word, and you are asking Jesus to heal and to deliver. You're asking Jesus to be bigger than the problem. You're asking Jesus to lead me and guide me. And I tell you, when your faith meets the word, I can't predict what will happen to us. Jesus said, let it be with you according to your faith. Jesus was surprised. And I know why. I kind of get why Jesus was surprised. Because we come day in and day out. We get familiar with the songs and the prayers. It becomes a second nature to us, and we forget that Jesus is the Word, and Jesus has a word, and Jesus should be taken seriously for what Jesus offers. I don't think Jesus is interested in further dividing. I don't think Jesus is interested in excluding anyone. That the reign of God, the kingdom of heaven, as Matthew says, is one. And when you're going to look around, and people are not going to look like you. You're going to look to your left, and it's probably going to be a centurion who used to enforce the worst policies of the empire sitting right next to you. And you might look to your right, and there will be a slave or a former slave sitting right next to you. You might look around, and there may be a trans person sitting right next to you. You might look right next to you to your right and say, oh, wow, there is a straight person sitting right next to me. You might look around and say, why? But in the kingdom of heaven, when your faith meets the word, who knows? who will be next to you? Oh, I don't know if Jesus would have baked the cake. I'm not sure if Jesus knows how to bake a cake. But I do know that Jesus would not close the door on us. I know that when Jesus put out Jesus' shingle and started giving that message of love, hope, and inclusion, even when he saw that his mission was to the lost sheep of Israel, every time an outsider came to him, every time someone who was excluded came to him, Jesus was moved to respond, was moved to be there, moved to be in community. And the question for us during this Pride season and throughout our witness at all God's children is, will we be able to include? Will we be able to see the need right before us? Will we represent the word in the way that Jesus would give it, so that when someone brings their faith will meet the word? Oh, I tell you, there have been times where I didn't think it so. For years, I wondered. I didn't even want to step foot in a church. I didn't want to go because I said, I don't want to hear the rejection. I put all of my energies and things that I thought I could control. I said, you know what? I'll do my own thing. And on that day, nothing special, but that day when I said, I need to take this faith somewhere. I need to try one more time. I need to see if this can be a possible match. I need to see if Jesus, the word, will show up, and if I could take Jesus at his word. And I took what little faith I had, and brought it to a church. I joke, I went to that church because I wanted to see what it looked like inside. I wasn't that clear, but I wanted to see what it looked like. And I took my faith into that church, and there were people there. There were people there who said, Jesus can say a word. And heal you. Jesus can say a word. And bring you in. Jesus can say just a word and change how you see yourself and you see the world. And it's because I brought that faith, and that faith met the word, that I can say that I know that I'm included. Amen.